in its vault go. And the only reason why it needs the money in the vault, remember, is to pay out depositors. So if a bunch of people show up in one day and say they want their money, they have to be able to have money. But in theory, if the government says, I back it all, what's the difference then? Because if there's a little run in the bank, the government just throws the money at it for the short-term crisis. The bank still has the assets, it still has the deeds and all that crap, so there's no big, huge problem. And the big, huge problem that happened for us now, though, is that the banks did all this stuff, and they're not the ones going to have to pay for this crisis, this bubble breaking. And so they're going to try to make the American people pay for it. Well, they already have successfully done that. The American people have bought all the bad loans, so they own all the undervalued property. So they own assets that say, deposits that say, theoretically at one time $700,000 worth of a property. And there's just no practical way they're ever going to get that money back. So they're going to have to put out money eventually to pay off all those bad, which essentially are bad deposits. I don't know exactly how they hold it as a security, a piece of an ownership of something. So it's like a note of a note, of something real. So it's like the third or fourth incarnation of a dollar bill. So it's basically saying if the original dollar bill thing goes down, then it cycles to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, and eventually when you try to cash this thing out, the government's not going to be able to cash it out. I guess I don't know exactly how to describe exactly what that means. It just means that you have an illusion of value until you sell it. Okay, until the government's required to monetize it, it says it's worth $700,000. But the street value, the real world, not the blue book value, the real world selling price is going to be a hell of a lot lower than that. So the government's going to have to definitely, it's lost money on the deal. It paid the $700,000 price. It's going to get the $300,000 price. So it's going to have a net loss in the next 5 years of $300,000, and that's going to happen a lot of times. So it's going to be trillions of dollars of lost money. And so what else is there to say? But yeah, it's not fractional reserve banking that was the problem. The problem is that there's these people who are doing all the owning. Okay, they owned all those debt contracts, and like I said, they just sold them to the United States government. They just sold these bad debts to the United States government. The government bought it. But the problem is there's too few people owning too much. And we fix that problem, we have a country again. But fractional reserve banking was not the problem. The problem is that the rich, as the people like the McCains bought so many houses they can't even tell you how many houses they own. That inflated the value of things, because they were always, as they made money, they bought something with their money. They bought a stock, or they bought a house, or they bought some property, and as they keep buying stuff, the rich, because they have these bills, these dollars that say they own something. And so as they keep trying to convert that profit to a hard asset, they keep inflating the prices of all the hard assets, all the commodities. And so that keeps pricing the worker out of the market. And so then he gets into more and more bizarre loan arrangements. I mean, in the 1970s, you could buy a house with a year and a half of your income. Today, there's no chance you're going to do that. And that's the kind of real world inflation that's just ruined the economy, just ruined it for the average person. The rich are getting richer, they're going to keep getting richer, and because they can profit off the inflation, where the worker is going to lose big time on the inflation. Yeah, it's probably enough. But it's not fractional reserve banking, assholes. All banking is fractional reserve banking, and the federal government does not just print the money. There is a deposit account. There is a money trail. So you're all full of fucking goddamn shit.